that I want to drive to East St. Louis to go to a casino for a couple minutes.
I didn't see any alligators.
Hey everyone, welcome to Reading the Green. It is Tuesday, December 7th, and I think we got a good show tonight. I'm Mike. I'm your host. I have Kyle and Jordan here as always, and we're going to recap the Hero World Challenge, and we head into a little bit of a break on the golf schedule, so we won't have an event to preview, but we will go through some of our contributor rankings looking ahead to next year. And before we get into some of the roundtable topics, probably a good time for any listeners that are new to Reading the Green and our DFS, our golf DFS show. We kind of take a different approach here. Yes, we like to help you prepare your lineups each week for the golf event, but we also keep pretty close track on how our contributors, your favorite fantasy professionals out there, how they're doing with their picks, and try to zero in on where the best advice is. You'll hear us talk about mentions, which is how we value consensus for certain plays each week, but then also the Article Performance Index, or API. That is our measurement of strength of an article or a contributor from week to week. And so that'll make a lot more sense as we get in the second half of the show here and talk about our standings, as we like to say. So let's just cover a few things in sports and life and others. So Kyle, Jordan, the weekend, how are things for you guys? Pretty quiet? It wasn't a holiday weekend?
It was nice.
Must have been a good one. I don't really remember.
Yeah. Wow, it was relaxing. After
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, before Christmas, didn't do a whole lot of anything.
Good.
Saw some Christmas lights. The 2.5-year-old lost her mind, so that was great.
Watched some college football, championship weekend. Unfortunately, some of it didn't go as I hoped, but some pretty good games out there.
I heard the hot take was, so I assume you're talking about Iowa losing narrowly to Michigan?
Just barely.
Yeah. I think the Gophers, though, had they been in that spot, it might have been a little more competitive.
Yeah, Gophers can play offense. No comment.
How about the college football playoff? I feel like this was a pretty easy decision for the committee. No one's going to really complain. Notre Dame is thankfully on the outside of the playoff.
I saw a great joke on Twitter. It's like, hey, if you're a non-Power 5 team and you want to make it in, just figure out who's going to finish 5th 10 years from now and schedule them and beat them, and then you're in, like, you're golden.
Yes. I would have liked to actually see Georgia-Alabama rematch in the first round of the playoff.
I think
Don't save it for the final.
I think I read that the committee factors that in, that they if they can avoid a rematch right away, then they will.
That's bullcrap. Put the first team versus the fourth team.
I agree.
I was really hoping Georgia would just beat Alabama to figure out a way to keep Alabama out, but here we are.
No. What is this?
No, because that would have given Notre Dame in, and
yeah.
no one wants that.
Sure.
Okay. NFL wise, we were just talking off air about that crazy Bills Patriots game, and Mac Jones attempts 3 passes in the game. I mean, you guys caught a little bit of that. Was it just
one through the first 3 quarters? I think it was the 3rd or 4th play of the game, and then back-to-back plays in the 4th quarter in the last drive or something.
Where do you?
ESPN, the geniuses that they are, post a stat. It's the fewest passes ever completed in a game, and he was number 1. And then the other ones were like 2 and 3, and then obviously the next 3 plays, 2 of the next 3 plays were passes. It was literally like the perfect jinx by ESPN to get him to throw passes.
Where do you stand on football being played in the elements? Like, do you feel like games like this are good, or should everyone just play inside and it should just be like, offense?
I mean, I wouldn't want to go to that game.
Yeah,
but
it was boring to watch. But
it adds some, especially snow games or heavy rain every now and then, are a little bit more fun. Yeah. Super cold in the wind, I could probably do without, but you got to take the good with the bad. I mean, it looked miserable.
It did. Snow games are fun. That just happened. Like, the wind was just crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the Twitter, the field goal that they were practicing before the game. It was like a 25-yard field goal, and he missed it 20 yards to the right.
Wow.
They kicked it straight, and it just went sideways.
How bad are the New York Giants?
I'm assuming we're gonna talk about TD Hunter.
Why don't you just dig into that?
So I'm sure most of you knows if you play NFL DFS on DraftKings, you also were partaking in the touchdown hunter competition for 5,000 crowns this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And with the new reward program they rolled out, I needed those 5,000 crowns
You did.
to get to my next level. And so it's over 3 weeks. I did it last year. Didn't really try extra hard at it, and
was easy
achieved
last
it.
year.
Yeah, achieved it pretty easily. So going into week one, us three kind of talked about it, and I made several small GPP lineups with exposure, 2 to 3 people exposure on every team. Didn't think much of it. Figured I would get the easy ones out of the way. In the last 2 weeks, I could do some showdowns and zero in. I don't know about you guys, but that first week I did not get a touchdown from the Giants. I believe Andrew Thomas, their tackle, scored the only touchdown.
Nobody got a touchdown from the Giants in the first week.
Which you couldn't even select him if you would like. And then we moved to week 2, and I had, I don't know, 10 teams left. How were you guys doing at that point?
Probably about the same. And I know I don't know that I did 2 lineups for the Giants, but I know I had both tight ends. When I say both, I mean like the 2 with real names. The one that scored the only touchdown of the game was like the third stringer that I think was probably minimum salary on DraftKings.
Yeah, and I don't know why you guys didn't pick him. He was the obvious selection. So
How many lineups did you make?
Only 2, and I happened to select him. So
You had $200 left.
One of the 3 of us selected this tight end. But my strategy was also, after the first couple running backs, I'd stopped. Because the 3rd and 4th string running back don't even get in the game. The 3rd and 4th tight end
It's not a bad...
might get in the game. So
But
I
you need
went
to
tight
cover
ends.
5 wide receivers usually.
No, they were all hurt.
Fair.
Well, either way, so the Giants score 1 touchdown in 3 weeks to the 3rd string tight end. The 3rd week, a touchdown hunter. They score no touchdowns. So they actually won one of these games. That's the other thing. This team is awful.
They're good.
I have a trivia question for Jordan. So what was the guy's name that scored the touchdown?
5,000 crowns.
It was something like Myarick.
Yeah, it's Chris Myarick. On the year, he has 2 receptions, 11 yards, and 1 touchdown.
Obvious, guys. This is obvious.
All right.
This is why I'm on the podcast.
Oh my God. All right. Let's do this. Because I know we want to get to Hero World Golf, but we're still riding pretty hot with Swag Golf. You've
a good week.
You've been working hard on your mystery box.
It was a good
So
week.
what's the latest?
I didn't get anything super unique, but the key with Swag, if you don't want it, sell it immediately. I saw today 2 people trying to sell the exact same things I sold last week for $300 less than I sold them for.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So that was a win. If you don't want it, get rid of it right away before the value comes down. Swag pulled a little fast one on everyone. Also, they released the number of covers that they made and put in the mystery boxes last week. They normally do that 3 or 4 months after the release. Here they did it before people even had the box.
So did it just totally spike the market for certain things and then drive it way down for others that weren't as unique?
No, pretty much tanked it for everything. They were way more boxes than they thought.
Sure.
People figured out there were about 1,100 boxes. So the fact that you 2 didn't get them is kind of sad.
Yeah, but if there was
I had an IT issue.
if there was 50,000 people going for him or whatever,
Yeah, understandable. But yeah, so that just tanked the entire market. Things are selling for. I got a pizza rat in mine that I swapped with someone for a popcorn that I could buy for $130 now.
So right when they launched, you were saying that you could sell an unopened box for $1,500-$1,600 bucks.
$1,500. There were
What-
probably 40 to 50 boxes that sold for $1,500.
Would that have been worth it, you think? Or is that absolutely not worth it?
It's worth it. There were a bunch of one-offs
Yeah.
So like one-of-one prototypes that they made that they never put into production that are selling for $1,500 to $3,000 by themselves. So it's the gamble. Right?
Yeah.
You're gambling.
Yeah.
Do you think
Set
you
your
get
floor.
one of those or not? That's why a lot of people sell right away. You'd rather have the $1,500 than the chance. I actually like the covers and like seeing what I got, so I wouldn't have done that. But I'm all for flipping things immediately. I've done it a bunch. It happened today. The 12 days of Swagmas are going on. I don't know if you guys participated yet or not.
I haven't.
I haven't. I noticed it, but I didn't.
Yes. Yesterday they released a putter with an awesome cover, but it was $1,000. They're flipping for just a couple $100, so it's not worth it for us amateurs. Today was apparel day. They released like 20 different articles of clothing, some of which you can still go get. So people bought them and posted them to trade them, to like flip them to make double the money when I can still go to the website and buy them. So that was a fail. But they had a surprise hat in there that I bought. Easily tripled my money. Sold it at the same time because it was a green and red swag hat that I don't need a green hat with red letters.
So it sounds like as they grow, you have to be a little more strategic.
Yeah.
In what you're gonna try to flip, and you can't just flip anything.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that's tomorrow. I don't know if you've checked your Instagram today. They've partnered with Perfect Practice, the golf putting thing.
Yeah, my father-in-law has one of those. Yeah.
And have done custom
tracks
with some cool, and then some matching head covers to go with them. They haven't said if they come together or if they're separate.
Interesting. I bet my 65-year-old father-in-law would really like that for Christmas.
Oh.
I should look into it.
Yeah.
Is it noon every day they drop the
during
Swagmas?
Swagmas, it's at noon. And I would assume tomorrow there's something interesting that comes after the drop.
Just a little tip for everybody.
I would they've only shown four items. There's not anything crazy in there. I would guess something comes 2 to 12 minutes after.
Sure. Cool.
Only get that here from Jordan.
Okay, last thing before we go to break and then talk golf. What do you guys think of the Bourbon County Stout Cola variant?
I think I still like the Blanton's better.
This is better than the 14.
Yeah.
Correct.
The 14 tasted like an elf crapped in my mouth.
Although yesterday in the snow globe.
An elf actually crapped in your mouth?
Well, in the snow globe that we had yesterday and this morning. Like,
the outside.
Yeah. Just having a couple ounces would have been the situation, the Christmassy theme and stuff, that maybe would have made the 14 taste a little better if we didn't have it right after a Blanton's.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes, but drinking 2 ounces of it would have been okay.
Yes.
While it was snowing outside.
Yeah. Well, this is pretty good. I don't know that I've read a lot about it tastes just like a whiskey Coke. I don't know that I taste that, but I think it's pretty smooth. So
I don't know how people are mixing their whiskey Cokes.
Yeah.
I like this more than a whiskey Coke because I don't like the whiskey in a whiskey Coke.
Yeah.
Right.
The Coke, really.
Okay, so let's go to break. We'll come back and we'll talk about the Hero World Golf Challenge and then get updated on our contributor rankings for the year and get ready for the PGA Tour season next year. Hey everyone, welcome back. Before we jump into the Hero World Challenge recap, we opened up another beer. This is Fair State Spirit Foul. I think we've been talking about this for a few episodes.
We finally opened it. Collaboration with Modern Times out of San Diego. And we've actually been...
Well, I don't think we went to Modern Times. We went to San Diego.
We just drank a lot of Modern Times beer in San Diego. Fair.
But it's really good. And I know you can get this in San Diego because I think we saw it in the cooler and we're like, oh, Fair State. But it's really solid. So, okay, Hero World Challenge. Obviously, a unique event. It's probably not really part of the PGA Tour, although they do dish out official world, or they dish out world golf points for the world rankings for it. So all the guys like to play in this event because, right, the way that works is the amount of points you get where you finish is based on the total number of points that are in the field. So stronger fields dish out more points. So that's why I think these guys like to play in this event. So it is competitive. Morikawa had a chance to take the number 1 ranking in the world, and he totally choked on Sunday. I think with a win, he would have moved to number 1, and he...
What did he blow, a 5-stroke lead?
Was it 5? It was 3 or 5.
You know why he choked, right?
Well,
Got engaged.
Which one? One of you guys sent the text out. Oh crap! Should we get off of Morikawa?
and it's let that be a lesson to him.
Yeah,
I mean,
don't get engaged.
It's gonna hurt your golf game, man.
He's gonna have kids soon.
That's what I said to one of the guys at my club when he sent out a picture to like the whole gang and was like, "Hey, I couldn't go on the golf outing this weekend because I just got engaged." And I was like, "Dude, well, I guess one way to do this is to marry someone that plays golf." And so I checked that for me. Anyway, so let's talk about the PGA Tour a little bit. Hovland ends up getting the win. It's so sneaky how, I mean, some of these guys, I think there's these storylines for a lot of these guys, but like now they're showing the stats around Hovland. 5 wins in his last 50 starts. Like, that's a pretty high win rate, and he's got something like 30 top 25s, and so like the dude, he's been really good the last couple years.
Yeah, I'll be interested when we get into the January swing of where he's at price point wise, and in a decent field event.
He's been sub 10K pretty consistently.
And I would think, with a lot of the big guns, he still will be in the upper 9K range, but let's say, at the Farmers, I don't know if he's going to play that, but let's say the Farmers comes out, you have a pretty good field, and he's $9,000. Mm-hmm. That's a play you're going to have to look at.
Yeah, he's been really good. So as far as results from our lineups, I had a take here that I wanted to share. So I had 2 lineups in this week, and I cashed on one, and I finished near the bottom on the other. So with the first lineup, pretty closely aligned to our model, kind of working off the top couple of plays, trying to fit together some salaries. Given the small field and no tiers, usually I would try to then focus on tiers, but without tiers this week, I said, okay, I'm going to do something fun. I'm going to go tail our hottest contributor of the last 5-6 rounds, and that was Reed Fowler. And I talked him up last week, gave him a shout out, said his picks have been sneaky good lately. And he was our worst article of the week. I finished, I think, 223rd out of 229 players in the pool that I was in. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, well, this just really goes to show the value of our approach and our model, that it smooths out one bad week from a contributor. Like, if you were to look at the players that he was picking versus where our consensus was, I would have avoided all 3 of those players that I built my lineup around. And so I thought that was just, I mean, for those that are new to our approach, maybe this isn't the way to win $1 million in a millie pool, but it certainly gives you a lot more consistency and avoids some of that bad advice from week to week.
To your point, Mike, I went 3 for 3 last week, strictly sticking to our differential and our API. Some of the 3 players we highlighted, Schauffele wasn't great. He finished 12th out of 20. It's funny again that it's a 20-person event. But Burns and Reed tied for 3rd. Did have quite a bit of Hovland shares, had Thomas shares. Rose finished in the top 10, and in my cash games, that was good enough for 3
and that's all you need. And we talk about that a lot, about just finding enough consistency guys that are going to make the cut. Obviously, this is a no-cut event, but so I think it was a really good experiment, and I did not like losing on half my entries, but it just kind of goes to show that that's what happens when you follow 1 or 2 contributors and only them, is you're then susceptible to their off weeks. And I was in the lineup that I was successful in was clearly unaffected by that. So I thought that was pretty cool. So Hovland Hovland wins. He's he's the top points getter. Also had the top mentions among others with 7 mentions. Our top article was the NBC Sports Edge article. They had picked Hovland, Burns, and Reed, and Webb Simpson, but a couple of those guys. Actually, I want to go back to Patrick Reed for a second. So we forgot to mention last week. You mentioned him as one of your plays, and I neglected the fact that you had placed Reed in the Koepka bucket the previous week. And I don't know. Remind us what the Koepka bucket is.
That you're not playing them in normal circumstances.
And I think your defense was that this was not a normal circumstance.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Brooks Koepka, none of us, unless something dramatically changes, none of us are playing him until the Masters.
And so then,
Or if he's playing Bryson only.
Bryson.
so then though, Patrick Reed on Thursday, I think he's like 2 or 3 over after the first 4 or 5 holes, and I texted you and said, I was like, oh my God, I thought I didn't have, actually put Reed in a lineup. I thought I had Daniel Berger. And your response was,
We don't tweet on Thursday.
which I had to then eat my own words that I had just talked about the previous week. And then Reed played really good, and I think he ended up top third. Yeah, it's top 5. So, again, that's why we don't tweet on Thursdays. Let's see what else. Our worst article, I already mentioned this. Reed Fowler on his DraftKings Nation post. He was the weakest, and that was too bad for the lineup that I had that tailed him. And then obviously that means that the landmine was Rory. And Rory had a really nice opening round, and then he just packed it in. So
Rory killed me in mine.
Yeah.
In my neighborhood league. I picked Rory over Hovland because I had extra money left at the end.
You got to go with the guy.
You got to be okay with leaving money on the table.
It was like $1,200. You're not going to leave 12% of your budget on the table.
20-person field? Hell yeah.
The pricing was really weird this week, so I think that did end up happening because you were able to go and get guys in the 6K range that you knew were going to be good, like Patrick Reed. So, okay, so let's talk about just kind of where we're at from a season standpoint on the contributors. So I think we're about a dozen events in. PGA Tour season takes a little break until the beginning of January, and then it's just like go all the way till September.
Well, there is an event this weekend. We just can't play it on DraftKings.
This is true.
The reason I have to bring it up for the QBE shootout, it's like 12 teams.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know much about the format, but it is at Tribune Golf Course in Naples, Florida, which I played in April. So I just wanted to say that.
And I forgot, you said you were flirting with the course record there, but did you actually set it?
I didn't see any alligators.
Okay.
That was my positive takeaway.
All right, so we can't bet on the QBE shootout this weekend.
Hold on. How is there no betting? I can bet on everything in the
Oh,
world.
I'm sorry. We live in a state where that's no fun.
Why isn't DraftKings? Why?
Actually, I will.
They could put something stupid together, and we would throw money at it.
You're right. But before we get to the rankings, I was in Illinois this past weekend, which is a state with legalized sports gambling. However, it is a state that requires me to register for online gambling at a physical location. And when the DraftKings Sportsbook, I have to go to the, I think it's called the Casino Queen.
In East St.
Louis.
That's the only one in Illinois.
And it's the only one in Illinois that has the DraftKings Sportsbook for me to register. So
I don't think you even have to enter. You just have to be on premise. You have to connect to their Wi-Fi.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when my wife we had grabbed some burgers from Au Cheval when we had gotten there on Friday, and she asked what I want to do this weekend while we're there for a wedding. And I said, I want to drive to East St. Louis to go to a casino for a couple minutes. She asked why, and I just decided not to explain.
So I kind of led you astray there because Mike had asked, like, hey, if I just download the app, I'm like, oh, you have to do the separate sportsbook app because in the state of Iowa, all I had to do was download the app and I could start betting. Unfortunately, it's not the same in Illinois.
Yeah.
Sounds like something Illinois would do. Make something as hard as possible to accomplish.
But hey, at least they can bet if you just made a road trip to East St. Louis,
Yes.
unlike us in our state.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay. Let's finish up with the contributor rankings for the first part of the season here. So surprisingly, although Sobel has had a couple of tough weeks since we were talking him up at the beginning, Fantasy Pros is leading the way with an average API in the season of 72.9. That's very good. Obviously, that means that they are performing much better than average. I think that the average API here is going to be 56. So a couple of other contributors to highlight. So Sobel is in second with a 68. Daily Fantasy Sports Rankings. Pat Mayo contributes through DraftKings. He is in fourth place, although he hasn't really contributed all that much. I actually kind of just want to reach out to him and ask if he's going to still keep writing for DraftKings Nation. But so either way, we haven't got a ton of engagement from him. Fantasy Labs and their cash plays in fifth, Golf Digest, RotoWire, NBC Sports Edge, and Number Fire round out the top 9. So I think looking ahead, I like to see a couple of contributors at the top that are offering 2 to 4 picks each week, because it gives you an opportunity to if they're picking well, to build a lineup around them. If it's a contributor that's offering, say, a dozen picks, well, I can't take their dozen picks and put them into one lineup. So I like that Fantasy Pros at the top. They've had a lot of players make the cut in this part of the season, and so I just think it's a great place to start when looking in January.
Yeah, one note for the listeners out there going into next year, we're gonna onboard some new contributors here, so increasing our data set even further, and hopefully keep refining our API from there, and really allow you to hone in on, hey, who's been hot, who's been consistent overall, and allow you to get the data to build the lineups the way you want.
Yeah, and like we talked about this week, we're finding that this approach of kind of using the consensus plays as your core lineup builds, it's very safe. And when you're targeting cash games or smaller field tournaments, it's a really good approach. So I'm excited to kind of get into an actual regular schedule in January and really put this to the test.
Heck yeah, we got some great events coming up, and because I mentioned it earlier, there's a course on the tour at the end of January that we have actually all played together as well. So always enjoy the farmers out at Torrey, and
let's we'll save a few stories for the farmers preview podcast.
Heck yeah.
All right.
We forgot to mention one thing though, Mike. Somebody's been doing pretty well lately in another non-golf, but another DraftKings. Mm-hmm. Another DraftKings sport. We've talked about it the last couple weeks, but Mike might have found something in hockey.
I am on a heater right now. I got quite a few wins in a row in our NHL Ironman challenge on DraftKings. So I don't want to jinx anything. I don't want to get into numbers, but maybe we'll revisit it next week and see how we're doing. So I think probably cut it off there and look forward to chatting again with you guys in a week. See ya.